Hello, welcome to Connecting Jewish Grandparents, the Grand Plan podcast. I am thrilled that you're here with me on the journey to create, to formalize, and strengthen joyous Jewish legacy to really help grandparents be empowered in doing what they do best. And while we're talking about grandparents, I want to share a little bit about my maternal grandmother, my Bubby. God, this whole project, I really think is th this business, this grand plan is really thanks to her and the legacy that she left me. My Bubby was such an incredible Bubby. And in case people didn't know that she was my Bubby, she made it very clear because she had vanity plates, personalized license plates. And in the 1980s, I really didn't know many people that had personalized license plates. And yet my Bubby drove around with the words Bubby on the front and back of her car. Oh, I suppose that if your plates said Bubby and you were driving New York City, that that might not be so unusual because there's probably some pretty great bubbies living in New York or the tri-state area. But my bubby lived in Little Rock, Arkansas. I don't know how many bubbies there were there, but I know that my bubby, not to be confused with Bubba, which is probably a more common thing to say down in the South, drove around everywhere she went with people knowing that she was Bubby. Very proud of who she was to be that. And I share that story about my Bubby and her driving around, kind of a connection to this week's Torah portion. This week is Lech Lecha, starting on the journey, really, of Jewish peoplehood. And we have the great patriarch, Avram, starting on his journey, not in Little Rock, Arkansas, but being called in the Lech Lecha. Go for yourself on this journey. And wow, this Torah portion is quite the journey of his marriage and his role as the first patriarch of teaching others of the divine and really his ongoing goal to leave a legacy. Now, for him, in the earlier in the Torah portion, the Almighty promises him that he is going to have an enormous population that coming from him would be the Jewish people, as many as the stars in the sky and the sand of the ground. So he's ready to create and leave this legacy for them, except he has no offspring. And I mean, for anybody who's struggled with infertility, you know how crushing, how heartbreaking that possibility is to not be the parent that he wants to be. And he keeps looking for different people to leave his legacy with. Should it be his nephew? Should it be the leader of his house? Should it? And at 99 years old, I didn't go in all the things that happened between the beginning to here. At 99 years old, the Almighty says to him, "You are going to be the father. And not are you going to be any father. I'm going to change your name, Avram." I didn't use his name many times up until now because I didn't want it to get confusing. Because when we think of the patriarchs, we think of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But up until he's 99, he's Avram, not Avraham, but Avram. There's no hey, there's no ha sound in his name. And at 99 years old, God gives him a new name and says, "You are going to be Avraham," which will stand for Av Hamon Goim, the father of many nations. And that's how he really turns it around to become the great patriarch that he is. But I want us to think about what it is to get a new name. My Bubby was not Bubby her whole life. She was not Bubby until my first cousin was born. Avram wasn't Avraham till he was ready to be a father. And in becoming, moving from Avram to Avraham, he is transformed. It is a divine moment of going from one to the other. And my grandparent listeners, I hope you know and understand what a transformation happens in a name change. What a new identity unfolds in a new name. A name, it reflects your essence and your potential and your purpose. When a new baby is named, they say that the parents play a role in picking the name, but it's really the divine. It's a moment of prophecy when this new name of a new baby is picked because it's about their potential and who they are. It it is the soul of a new baby, and in a name change, it expands your soul and your purpose and your reach. So, my grandparent friends, are you a Bubby, a Safta, a Noni, a Mima, a Mama, a Grandma, a Grammy? Are you a Saba, a Papu, a Pops, a Grandpa? Those names carry you. When you become a grandparent and now you have a new name, it is a transformation. It's a widening of your heart and of your identity. So when we think of Avraham and his new role of what legacy he's going to leave to Jewish peoplehood, I'll ask you the same question. For Avraham, God tells him, you are going to manifest a different future in this time from this new name. I don't think you, my listeners, are going to have the same level of prophecy. Not on your own. I mean, God, I don't think will directly tell you. It's going to take personal work and reflection and doing to figure out, what does this name mean for me? You have to grow into that name. Did you pick your name at all? Sometimes it's chosen for a grandparent, by the first grandchild's mispronunciation. And sometimes it's assigned to you by your children or your children-in-law. And maybe, hopefully, you got to choose it for yourself. But whatever that name is, that's going to become a sacred title. When you reflect on the generations before you and you think about your grandparents and what you called them, just hearing that alone, when you hear Zadie, does that flood you with memories of what was and what that person meant? Because you, in your name, you are going to leave that for the next generation. That is the legacy. Hashem tells Avraham, you will be a blessing. Becoming that grandparent is one of the most tangible ways to embody that promise, that process. Your new name is your calling, your grandparent role. When a parent becomes a parent, that's the first step, and that's enormous. And I think all of my listeners have had that opportunity of growing into your new role as mom, dad, Ima, Abba, Mama, Papa. But now it happens a little bit more remotely. And so the layers that are added, they might happen with more time, with more experience. What does that grandparent name mean to you right now? Right? Take time to reflect on what it is to hold this special title. Who calls you that? How did you come to be it in this time? And what could that name mean for you in the future? How are you going to grow into it and grow with it? If you reflect on it the other way, what does your special grandparent name mean to your grandchildren? How do you want them to feel when they call you by that name or when they hear that name? When they hear they're going to visit you or speak to you on the phone? What do you want that to be and feel like to them? Hopefully, you're flooded with joy thinking about that because that is what Grand Plan is here for. It's about imagining your legacy and then actualizing it. And your name, from what your birth name is to your special grandparent name, that is the name of your legacy. And you want to live it with love. If you want any help in this process of making that legacy the best it can be, maximizing your potential, go in the show notes. Book a call with me. Let's do some amazing coaching together. We'll try a free session to make sure it's a good hit, and then let's do this. Let's start the process of you really living into your grandparent potential. My Bubby in Little Rock, and then in Israel. When I hear the name Bubby, I'm so filled. I don't think that I could ever be called Bubby because the legacy that she left me is too enormous to think about being that. I will have to be a grandparent in my own way, and you have so much potential. You could take the personality quiz in the show notes to look at more about what type of connector you are and how you are going to make that connection happen. This Torah portion, Lech Lecha. Go on your journey like Avram and grow into your potential like Avraham. You are going to be the parent, the grandparent of a great family, leaving a phenomenal legacy.